Hello everybody, welcome back to Screen Stars and welcome to a double review. Now I have recently reviewed on the channel The Silence of the Lambs, classic film review, and I think it's undeniable that is a classic film, and I gave that a stone cold 10 out of 10. Brilliant film. So I recently picked up the Hannibal Lecter Trilogy, and in that obviously you get The Silence of the Lambs, Hannibal and Red Dragon. So I decided to do a double review for Hannibal and Red Dragon. Both follow-ups to Silence of the Lambs. Now Red Dragon is set before Silence of the Lambs and was previously made into a film in the 80s called Manhunter, which many people still regard as an excellent film, myself included. But we will start with Hannibal. Now Hannibal was released in 2001, so practically a decade after the first Silence of the Lambs films. And there was a bit of a controversy, or a bit of a storm at the time, because Jodie Foster refused to return as for the role of Clarice Starling. So they cast Julianne Moore, who I think does a pretty decent job in this film, and it's not an easy thing to fill the shoes of Jodie Foster, and especially in an Oscar-winning role, but I think she does a good job. And the film also obviously has Anthony Hopkins, Ray Liotta, and Gary Oldman. And this film focuses on, I think it's something like, I think it's 10 years after the events of Silence of the Lambs. Clarice is quite a renowned FBI veteran now at this point, and she makes a vital error, and she's basically then demoted pretty much and is put back on the case of Hannibal Lecter, who is still at large, but has kind of come off the top 10 list, if you like, of the most wanted. However, Gary Oldman, who is one of Hannibal Lecter's victims who survived, keeps pressing for this case to be reopened, and he's got a lot of clout. So Clarice goes out to interview Gary Oldman's character, and essentially we learn through the film that Hannibal Lecter is over in Italy, and he is trying his best, if you like, to get the job as a curator at a renowned museum. However, how he goes about that business is questionable, as to say the least. It's Hannibal Lecter at the end of the day. However, a local policeman suspects who this guy is, and he realises eventually he is Hannibal Lecter, but rather than do the right thing and turn him into the authorities and get him captured, he decides he's going to cash in and sells the information of where Hannibal Lecter is to Gary Oldman's character. Doesn't go according to plan, as you could imagine, and then things escalate from there. So, what are my thoughts on Hannibal? Well, this film, I do seem to remember at the time, I didn't see this in the cinema, I saw this on DVD when it came out. I remember many being quite disappointed with this film. Understandably. I think when you watch it, I think it's clear it's not on the same level as Silence of the Lambs. But I think it's an admirable effort, this. I think much of the fault with this film is probably down to the writing, particularly the novel. It felt rushed, maybe, the novel, to put out. And they changed an awful lot as well in the novel, because apparently it was a bit bonkers. I couldn't tell you because I've not read the novel. But I do know some quite crucial things were changed for the film, and Ridley Scott wasn't happy to leave some of the things in the book in the film, so he did make some changes. However, saying all that, saying that there are some flaws with this film, I think its pacing is a little bit off. It goes for shock value far too much. But there are some things that work in this film as well. I think the scenes with Julianne Moore, Clarice and Anthony Hopkins are very, very good. The ending of the film is excellent, I think, and it works really, really well, and there are some really, really shocking scenes in it. I actually don't mind this one too much. I rewatched it with my wife who'd never seen it, and we both enjoyed it. So I'm going to give it an 8 out of 10, because I don't think it's certainly as bad as I remember, and certainly maybe not as bad as you remember either. Which leads us nicely on to Red Dragon. This came out a year later, in 2002. And like I said, this is based on the first book, Red Dragon, that was, like I said, made into a TV movie in the 80s by Michael Mann called Manhunter. And if you watch both of them side by side, they are essentially the same film in many, many ways. However, this one was directed by Brett Ratner, and once again we have Anthony Hopkins, we have Edward Norton, Ralph Fiennes, Harvey Keitel, Emily Watson, and Philip Seymour Hoffman in Red Dragon. Now, I personally think this is better than Hannibal. Again, I don't think it's just up to the level of Silence of the Lambs, and I do think there's a debate to be had whether it's as good as Manhunter. There are aspects of this work really, really well. I think Edward Norton's excellent in the film. I think the way they set up his character and they show how he captures Hannibal was really well done. I thought that was good. I thought the scenes between him and Hannibal Lecter were excellent. And I think Ralph Fiennes as the Tooth Fairy was brilliant. Really, really good. I mean, very, very good performance by him. And Philip Seymour Hoffman, who plays this sleazy journalist, very, very good too. I think there's a lot that works in this film, I personally think. The investigating side of it, the Edward Norton, when he's investigating the scenes and they bring him back into the fold, because he pretty much quits after Hannibal Lecter almost kills him. He kind of quits, and then it's Harvey Keitel that talks him to come back because they need to try and find this killer, the Tooth Fairy. So that side of it really works. I think his decision to come on board, and then the investigating that he does, and again the scenes between him and Hannibal Lecter, I think work really well and quite effective for the most part. They don't obviously seem just as good as Jodie Foster and Anthony Hopkins. There's just not that chemistry there. I think that was lightning in a bottle, if I'm being perfectly honest. The scenes between them two in the first Silence of the Lambs. But you can see there is a connection there between these two characters, and it's really nice as well to see him back in the old sanitarium and things like that with all the old characters that you remember from the first Silence of the Lambs. So it feels really authentic, this film. It feels on point. I think maybe they tried to overuse Hannibal Lecter in this film. There's a couple of scenes that it just felt like they wrote it in because they wanted Anthony Hopkins on screen a little bit more. I don't remember from Manhunter that Hannibal Lecter was in that film as much as he was in Red Dragon, but you can understand it. Hannibal Lecter essentially is the star of these films, so they probably wanted him on screen as much as they could. So that does make an awful lot of sense. So like I say, I like this a little bit more than Hannibal, so I'm going to give it an 8.5 out of 10. It's a really good watch. There's some really good scenes in it, some good scary scenes in it. Like I say, Ralph Fiennes is excellent as the Tooth Fairy, and it is definitely very, very good watch, this one. So that's my double review for Hannibal and Red Dragon. I didn't want to do individual reviews for these, but definitely the Silence of the Lambs deserved its very own review. So thanks for watching, everybody. Let me know in the comments your thoughts on these two films, and I will of course be back with more reviews on Screen Stars very, very soon.